Manscaped.com. Use promo code WrestlingFuture for 20% off your purchase. Manscaped.com and the Lawnmower 3.0. Your balls.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very special edition of Wrestling with the Future. I'm your host, Angelo DeCipio, joined by the happy haberdasher, the smart in the room, Dan the Man Sebastiano. Daniel, how are you tonight?
I'm good, Angelo. How are you doing?
Daniel, what's the word of the day, Dan?
Word of the day is epic, Angelo. The word of the day is epic. Epic
indeed, my friend, is the guy, our guest tonight, that we've been wanting to have him for a long time, tracking him down. I see we got Andrew Anderson.
What's going on, buddy?
Hey, here's Andrew joining us. Hey, brother, we almost gave up on you.
Can you see me?
You are in the dark, but we can see you. I've got Kevin with us.
I'm walking my dog as we go.
Oh, Kevin, Andrew's walking the dog.
Sounds like the dog's walking Andrew, doesn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly. Right at this point, I'm on mile 5, and I was wondering. My phone wasn't ringing, but my Apple Watch was buzzing my wrist off, and I thought it was just the dog pulling on me. And I looked and I saw buzzing you guys back. What's up, guys?
Not too much. I got Kevin. Kevin's going to give us about 30 minutes tonight.
Good. That's usually
long enough to walk your dog.
That's 29 minutes more than he gives his wife in bed.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, and Kathy's on the phone. So, Andrew?
Yes. Who's on the phone?
Bitsy's on the phone. So.
Oh, what's going on?
Hi, dear.
How you doing?
Good.
I gave Kevin the message last time I saw you. Last time you talked to me when I was with him.
You better.
I know I did.
Well, tonight, Kevin, we're going to do something a little different. I'm not going to interview you. We're just going to talk. We're just going to have a. Okay. In fact, I called tonight's show Kevin Sullivan in Conversation. So we just want to talk. There's not too much really that you can get out of Kevin Sullivan that hasn't already been spoken about or known or put out in a shoot interview or 3,000 that you've done. So tonight we're just going to talk.
Kevin, Kevin, I'm gonna do something that hasn't been done before.
Sure.
Kevin, what's your favorite superhero?
Mine, Hawkman.
Yep. And who had a Hawkman artist from DC Comics draw the Taskmaster versus Hawkman?
And Andrew Anderson.
That's right. I pulled my strings out of a friend of mine, Darren Knock, who is a Marvel Comics illustrator, and he's also an illustrator for DC Comics, and he drew the Hawkman comic for a number of years, and he went out and he made Kevin a special present that I wanted to give Kevin something. So for all the shit that Kevin puts up with me and everything else, I had something that nobody else gave him. They turned Kevin into a supervillain against his favorite superhero growing up. So, right, Kevin?
So Kevin, let me just kind of break the ice here a little bit. I had it on good authority that your dog Sydney and a $100 bill were involved simultaneously in a story. Could you tell me what the deal was with Sydney and a $100 bill?
Robert Fuller probably told you the story, but I had a big Saint Bernard. He was 200 pounds. And I was getting ready to leave, and my girlfriend at the time said, give me some money, and she had a $100 bill and went to give it to me, and she pulled it back. I said, I don't have time. I need you to give it to me. She did it, and now the dog's looking at what's going on because she's jerking it back, and the dog's starting to bark. So she goes to give it to me again. As she goes to give it to me again, she jerks it back, but when she does, I grab her hand. The dog jumps up and took the $100 bill. I'm chasing the dog, and he's got the $100 bill. I corner him, and the dog eats it and swallows it.
Oh, no.
I heard that story. And by the way, it wasn't Robert Fuller who told me. And by the way, I know Robert, a really great guy. I know him fairly well. It was our mutual friend, Cowboy Scott Casey.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Scott's a great guy. I love him dearly.
Yeah, Scott's a good friend of the show. Scott wanted me to say hi to you, Andrew, and hi to you, Kevin.
Love Scotty. Scott's a great dude, man.
Well,
He'll be. He's actually going to be on the show next week. He and Eddie Mansfield are. They're going to reunite to talk about their Southwest days.
Wow, cool.
Okay. But Sydney ate the $100 bill.
I heard that. So let me ask you, Kevin, you prefer surf fishing or a deep sea boat?
Deep sea. Aren't you going to ask me about the $100 bill?
Well, I'm sure you ended up getting it on the receiving end of that door.
So what are you saying? What happened? I got it on the receiving end?
Yeah.
No, I
She
couldn't
threw it
get
up.
it. The dog couldn't pass it. It was counterfeit.
Oh shit. Oh fuck! I walked right into that one. I walked right into that one.
Back to fishing. There's nothing better than deep sea fishing. You know, you're gonna catch something.
Now I know you're a fisherman, but I don't know too much about whether you're a hunter or not. Do you like to hunt?
I used to hunt birds when I was younger, and when I was really younger, I used to hunt deer. But I'd rather fish any day of the week.
I hear you.
Yeah,
A long time.
Same here.
Yeah, and then you grew up in the Boston area. Were you right in Boston, the city itself, or on the outskirts?
I was right downtown. But we had friends that lived in New Hampshire, and that's when I used to hunt up there. And you know, I used to go out with a friend of mine too when I was real young on a boat. So it was the same area around New Hampshire. But once I got to Florida, I became an avid fisherman.
So my understanding is that your father was a police officer in Boston.
Yeah, my father was a Boston cop. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about minding your P's and Q's with an old man that's a cop.
Well, the thing is, the world has changed so drastically with the police. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When they had, we used to, my little gang of hoodlums, we'd go down to the park and shoot baskets and play baseball where you shouldn't be playing baseball in the park at that time. And there used to be a sign that say, "After dark, stay out of the park." Okay? And we would come, stay there, and we would, Monday through Friday, this one cop worked it, and he was an older guy. And we'd stay there and be jack-offs where he'd have to chase us and we'd blow by him. But on Fridays and Saturdays, we left the park early because there was a cop named Dom Scalise, and he had been a pro boxer, and he was just a tough guy. Back in the day, actually, people used to take buses and trains and drive cars from all over New England to have street fights with him. So we knew better. So one time, I had a friend named Kevin Ring, and we were there, and it was during the week, and we knew the other cop. I think his name was Fitzmaurice, Kathy, not your name, but close enough. And we were saying, well, Fitz will be around the corner pretty soon, and we're hooting and hollering. I think we might have even had some beers and underage. And corner turns is Dom Scalise. And we all shit our pants and we start to run. Well, he was in great shape. We snatched Kevin by the neck, Kevin Ring, and smacked him in the head. And Kevin looked at him and said, "This ain't fair. What are you doing working here tonight?" He said, "Fitzy's on vacation. I'm taking this thing." He said, "Well, you got to tell us when shit like this happens. You just can't stop the shit out of me." So, yeah, it was, they took no mercy. It was probably worse being a cop's kid than a non-cop's kid. Yeah.
Well, Kevin, I have a co-host here They call him the smartest man in the room. His name is Dan the Man Sebastiano, and he's got some questions for you. Go ahead, Danny.
Kevin, I
Hey,
want to
Dan.
say it's an honor to talk to you. Obviously, I started my career as a journalist and wrestling historian, and your
cool.
name comes up all the time. So, but I want to kind of avoid some of the wrestling talk. I am curious if you could tell a story. Looking up on a lot of the information about you, your the stories of you and your ex-wife Deborah are real big. Your current wife Samantha, how did you meet her? I can't seem to find any information on how that came about.
I don't have a wife named Samantha, and I never had a wife named Deborah.
Deborah. Nope. His,
No.
his wife's name is Linda right now. His current wife is Linda.
Yeah. So that's the thing about looking shit up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
I didn't write it, so people put shit down. So
well, then let me expand on that, because that's probably why I couldn't find any information, because I didn't even know that it came up. Then you obviously
date. They also have the wrong birth date for him on
that,
many those websites.
That doesn't surprise me. That's the problem with
There's
stuff
a lot
like
of stuff
like those wiki pages that can be edited by anybody. I'm curious then.
That.
Well, then let me have you expand on that. You've been clearly been the target of misinformation. How does that go? How do you deal with that? Like when you have fans and stuff like that, where it comes up and nobody really knows the real Kevin Sullivan.
I don't pay attention to it because, hey, it's social media is wonderful for some things, but it causes too much bullshit to be out there, and it has caused, I believe it has caused a breakdown in society. We'll be now tribal, and we have two camps, and it doesn't matter. You're either red or blue, and you can't talk to the other side, and that's why shit doesn't get done. But I mean, okay, all this information, and like they said, my name was Kevin Caldwell at one time, and a bunch of different names that I suppose he wrestled under. I don't know where they get this stuff. And then the titles that I have, half of them are wrong, and 3/4 aren't up there. So I don't know who makes this shit up. So I mean, I laugh when I hear people talk about news, and I ask them a question. I said, "Where did you hear that?" Oh, on the internet.
Well,
really?
you know, it's funny. That's come up a few times on some of the guests Angelo and I have had on the show, and he can vouch for that. Pro Wrestling Insider's notorious for padding their PWI top 500 list with BS stories just to give everybody an entry. Is there a chance that some of these people that have interviewed you or found this information in the past are just stealing, not knowing where the line of kayfabe ends and thinking the fake stories are real?
Probably, yeah, probably. I mean, you know, it's crazy that some people still don't understand where kayfabe ends and reality happens. And to me, it's just mind-blowing that people can be so... First of all, you're a wrestling historian, right, Dan?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So how do you know what you know is real?
Well, that's
exactly.
No, that's a very fair question, and that's come up before on the show. You have to through and get, like we're doing now. You get the real stories from the real people, because a lot of what's told and what you hear is people staying in character, or stories that I mean, Angelo will tell you, being in the business, it's come up on the show numerous times. You hear a story backstage, and by the time it's told 100 times, it's a different story, or there's different people. You know, you gotta get it from the horse's mouth. So I mean, obviously, I did research from what I thought was credible sources, and I had false information on you. So
I gotta tell you
gotta look for what's out there.
What I love is some of the two stories about Haku. I've been at both of them, and I hear all this bullshit stories, and some of them are crossed with Barbarian. Andrew and I went to Africa with Barbarian, so a lot of the stories about those two guys, you can insert either one, and the story sounds good. But if you want to be correct, you better know who you're talking about. And so I try not to look at any of that, because most of the people, not do they get their information secondhand, but they get it removed 20 times. So unless you probably delve in and dig real research, and you can, you know what I mean? Like, Notre Dame, the University of Notre Dame has a lot of historical stuff on professional wrestling. Are you aware of that?
I'm not. I wouldn't think that'd be a place to find a wrestling archive.
Yeah, they got a huge wrestling archive. They have a wrestling archive from Jack Pfeffer. Did you ever hear that name?
Yep.
I'm sorry. What was the name again?
Jack Pfeffer.
Jack Pfeffer.
That has come up.
Oh yeah,
before.
Absolutely.
Very nice.
Jack Pfeffer.
Jack Pfeffer was a classic, an original.
I have friends up that way. I'll make a note of that. See if I can't get my hands on some of that stuff.
And do you know, in the 40s and up until about 1960, the most powerful promoter in the United States was, and they have his stuff there too. Paul Bowser. You ever hear the name?
Mm-hmm.
You have?
I'm sorry. You said Paul Brown?
Paul Bowser.
Oh,
Paul Bowser. Yeah.
Paul Bowser.
Yeah. See, Dan, you're apparently not the historian you think you are.
Well, I never claimed to.
Dan, you're good. Dan, you're good. No, Dan, you are good.
No.
I will testify to that. Dan is very, very knowledgeable. I can tell you that. Dan knew a lot of my stuff that I forgot.
Andrew has told me that, but here's where I'm going. If you go to that, and Tony, there's also another promoter. You ever hear the name Tony Santos?
Yep. Absolutely, of course.
Okay, and his stuff is in there too. So I have, and you know who's, Dan, if you want to hook up with the real historian of professional wrestling, is Tom Burke. Do you know him?
Tom.
Yeah, I do, Kevin.
You said Tom Burke?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll hook up the young squire.
I was going to say his name's come up on our show before, hadn't it, Angelo?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
By me.
Now you can see
Tom
me.
has.
There's Andrew.
Tom has letters from every promoter back in the day when there was over 30. When I broke in the business, there was 37 territories. And this guy, Tom Burke, has it before then when there was like 46 territories. He has letters. He has letters from Pfeffer to Santos, Bowser, and it's really, really entertaining to read. Like, there was one letter that I read that Tony Santos was bringing in Dr. Jerry Graham, and Santos used to call him Pfeffer Papa, and he said, "Papa, I'm bringing Jerry. I hope this isn't a mistake." And then I looked at the payroll for this little town, and guys were making this is back in the mid-50s. Guys are making $50, $60, but Jerry's making $450. And I'm thinking, wow, this is really interesting. So that's what I'm saying about wrestling. Wrestling doesn't have much written history, and it's carried on. It's like Celtic history. They didn't write, so it was orally.
Kevin, we got a phone call coming in for you, Kevin.
Okay.
Go ahead, caller.
Hello, Kevin.
Hello.
Kevin, I have waited 35 years to thank you for something. This is Randy Hogan.
Hey, Randy, how are you, buddy?
Kevin,
up, Randy?
I am good. I'm good, guys. Dan, Angelo, Kevin, when I heard you were going to be here, I said, I've got to talk to Kevin. I want to go back to maybe 87, 88, when I first got up to Atlanta and started doing some TV stuff. And you had. I remember when I first got there. Again, I didn't know anybody. I was a scared little kid in the candy shop around all you stars and everything. And so my first match, and you were, I don't know what you were doing. You had the monitor and the headphones on, and Hogan, you're up, or Hogan, go to the ring, or whatever else. The first time, and that was cool. And then the second time, then flash forward, we were, I think, going to a taping. We were on a bus. I think when they come down to Florida, they used to go from the hotel over to the taping and that. And I sat next to you, and we just had a little chit-chat. I think you were in Daytona Beach at the time. We talked about that a little bit. I know you don't remember this. It's okay. But anyways, at that point, I felt very comfortable around you. A couple weeks later, I look at the sheet and who it is, me and somebody against the varsity club, you and Rotunda. Mm-hmm. I was so excited. So we get in there, have the match, and of course you hung me in the tree of woe, okay? So I'm hanging I'm hanging there upside down, and I see you across the ring, and you are going to come full bore, and I know you're going to get that hip right into my belly. But somehow I knew. I said, Kevin's going to take care of me. And it was great. And it seems like after that, when I would see you or whatever, you would say, hi, Randy. Instead of just holding you to the ring, now it was, hi, Randy. And I felt so accepted at that point. And I didn't feel that way until you had that impact by just saying, hi, Randy, to me. How much that meant to just a little guy coming up. And I wanted to thank you all these years. I saw you last year I was in New York at the big event.
Yeah, I remember.
I was at a table.
Yep.
Yeah, I was at a table, and I saw you walking out. And I said, Kevin, but you were like in a hurry to get out. You didn't even see me. And I so wanted to talk to you then. So when Angelo told me you're going to be on today, I said, God, all I want to do is say thank you, Kevin, for making me feel part of it.
Well, thank you, because you were part of it. Thank you very much, Randy. And I appreciate the nice comments, but hey, brother, we're a fraternity, and we're supposed to take care of one another and make everybody feel good.
But you did that, Kevin, and a lot of the guys didn't. Us little jobbers were in one corner, and everybody else was somewhere else. But you actually spoke to me like a real person, and I know it's 35 years, give or take, late in saying thank you again, but just the impact that you had on me, or a little guy like me, and you didn't even notice, just speaks so highly of you. And I've shared this story over and over. Just how do they say, well, who were the good guys back there? Who did you like? And you come up, and that's it, because you are the only one that made me feel accepted.
Well, I really appreciate it, Randy, and you were
a
very talented guy. You were a very talented guy.
Thank you.
And
Kevin,
next time I'm going to be sure to hear when you hear one of your guys, speak so affectionately about you all these years later.
Yeah, I mean, that's so nice. I'm glad I always thought, hey, these guys, and this is the thing about Hall of Fames. None of these guys that I'm in the NWA Hall of Fame, none of these guys that are in the Hall of Fames would get there if it wasn't for guys like Randy.
Right.
And guys from I have fucking said this. There should be a Hall of Fame, and they should induct guys like Randy that put guys that probably didn't have Randy's ability in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because without guys like Randy, there wouldn't be these supposed mega stars. Because I love when guys in our business say, "Well, everything's work." Well, try to hit a fucking round ball with a fucking oblong bat. See if you can do it. See if you can throw a pass 60 yards. See if you can skate 80 miles an hour. those guys are really doing it. We do it because there were people like Randy that were unselfish and did almost anything you asked them, and they did it to the best of their ability, and they did it well. So I think there should be a Hall of Fame for guys like Randy. And
Absolutely.
If there is,
Oh yeah.
If there is, Randy should be in it.
I
What do
think
you think, Kathy?
I think they should get into the Hall of Fame.
Kathy, what do you think?
I agree. Definitely. You know that.
Yeah.
Andrew, let me ask you a question. How
Sure.
did you get to know Kevin, and where did Papa Smurf come from?
Well, I knew Kevin from when I went down to the power plant to try to train and try to get a career in WCW that never panned out. And then years later, I got a call that he's booking a bunch of tours all over the country. So we wound up working together, and eventually we wound up getting closer and closer. And he was always good to me, sort of like Randy. He was always good to me. He never looked down on me when I was breaking in the business, which was great. And also, Kevin and I worked a lot of the same shows for Boston Bad Boy Tony Rumble, right, Kevin?
Oh, sure, Tony. Yeah.
But Kevin was working
the
on
late Tony Rumble, sure.
and I was working on the bottom, just breaking in. So I was usually there with Jimmy Snuka or with Tony Atlas at the time, or with Nikolai. So I really wasn't. Kevin was working on top on all those shows. So, and he was just coming from the NWA for WCW and coming up there to work for Tony. So it was that was really how I first met Kevin, was working for Tony Rumble. And then eventually we became really good friends, and Papa Smurf came up was because we're sitting in a hotel room in Africa, and me and Kevin are rooming. And Kev, did we have the worst case of dysentery ever?
Oh, it's true.
And there were two stalls in the hotel room.
Pounds in 10 days.
Yep. They had two stalls side by side in Nigeria. And the stalls are side by side in the hotel room, separated by a thin wall, but instead of doors, there's a shower curtain to each thing. So we could always just reach over and hand each other the toilet paper. There's one shower. They had a really nice marble room with the bedrooms are nice, and they had your own little kitchenette and everything. It was cool, but it was like living in a Jim Jones compound, if you really thought about it. And anyway, so Kevin and I would try to run and outdo each other to see which one hits the toilet, makes the bounce noise first. So Kevin and I were like dueling banjos in the bathroom. One time we're in the bathroom and both of us are letting rip. We barely got back to the room after the matches that time. And the housekeeper comes into the room and she kept calling him my papa. Your papa good? Papa good? She kept saying, Papa good? So I was going, yeah, Papa Smurf's good. so she kept calling me little boy and Papa and little boy. Remember her, Kev?
Yeah.
Papa, you okay?
That's
Papa
beautiful.
Smurf's okay.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Hey, can I bring something up too? I'm glad Kathy's on the. Here's the thing, guys. I'm bringing something up about Kathy. All I have to hear about is ECW. This person did this person did that. Well, guys, Angelo, and here's something that never is brought up: how important Kathy was for ECW. Without Kathy, Paulie wouldn't have been on track. She kept them on track. If they needed a tape delivered anywhere, nobody else could find the building, or nobody knew how to get there but Kathy. When Todd needed somebody picked up at the airport or needed a belt picked up that was shipped in that they had left it in Florida, they went to Kathy. And Kathy was as influential helping them keep their shit together and not unravel. And there's a lot of people, no, I shouldn't say that. There's not a lot of people, but there are people that go unnoticed, like the Cathys of the world, that really, really, really are unsung heroes.
Exactly.
And I think that's why Randy said some nice things about me, because I've always thought if you got in this business, it doesn't matter what you do. You're in this business. We're supposed to work together. And you also have to give credit where credit is due. And Cathy was one of the most influential people in ECW, and she would get the fans to buy tickets. She'd give them these supposedly secrets where she'd say, "Hey, this guy's coming in next week." They would know about it, so they didn't have to advertise. And Cathy would get the people to buy tickets. She did everything.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, so I just want to have people recognize what Cathy did, and Cathy, they should be giving you a residual check for all those.
And Kevin, thank you for saying that, because I'll tell you what, and a lot of people don't know this too, but Cathy's responsible for feeding a lot of the guys a hot meal, keeping their clothes clean, getting them to the airport on time, getting them to the building on time, and getting them there sober.
Yeah, and open up
that's half the battle.
Or after the matches, open up the beer when they're driving.
Exactly. Exactly.
Cathy's, she was a gem.
Cathy's
if I ever had a wrestling company, I would hire Cathy. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you, Kev.
You're welcome,
Absolutely.
honey.
So, Randy, are you still with us?
I wouldn't leave for the world, baby.
All right, brother. Well, listen, you said at the beginning of this call, you waited 35 years. Was it worth the wait, my friend?
I am like a kid in the candy shop right now. I have gone back 35 years. I got to say, thinking about it, the tears actually swell up in my eyes, and that's no exaggeration. I think back, I still see Kevin sitting at the table. I still hear him telling me about Daytona Beach. I think he just lived there, he moved there or something. I see him next to me in the bus. I see that body running across the ring, and I'm hanging in the trio O, baby, just waiting to get squashed. I remember it like yesterday. I mean, this is a classic. This is a moment for me. It really is.
Beautiful.
Kevin, you have no idea the influence and the mark that you made on me in the wrestling business. I mean, you just really made me feel comfortable, and that's the easiest way I can say it. And again, I can never thank you enough. And Angelo, I thank you for bringing us together like this.
Oh, you're quite welcome, Randy.
I got to tell you guys something. That there was a fan who came up to me and Kevin last week. He's a super fan. He's a collector also, and his name is Ray. And he's from I think he's from Pennsylvania, or I forgot where. But remember, Kev, what Ray said to you back in WCW and the NWA? Everybody, the baby faces from Dusty on up, wouldn't sign an autograph, but Kevin always took the time to sign all the guys, or as he called it, all the marks autographs for all the marks. He never, he was the heel. Him and Mark Lewin would always go out of their way to sign. And so, Kevin, you definitely left an impact on a lot of people.
Absolutely.
No,
a good one.
You know, Kevin, there are three kinds of greatness. There's greatness that you're born to. There's greatness that you're achieve, and there's greatness that's thrust upon you. Describe your greatness.
Well, I don't think I'm great, because here's the thing.
You're a humble man, but you got four people here who think you're pretty special.
Well, I appreciate that, but we all pull our pants on the same way. You know what I mean? Me and Andrew may tuck ours a little different than Cathy, but we all get up, put our pants on. We all got to do it to get up and fight life or enjoy life, because life can have ups and downs, and you got to travel through it. But having good friends like Kathy Andrew makes life a little bit easier. You know,
Absolutely.
I'm always happy to see Kathy when I go on the road and she's at an event, and it brings up good memories because Kathy has been a big part of my career. I mean, she's been there from the beginning, and now Andrew at the as the sun starts to fade in my career, Andrew's there, and he always has a kind word. He's just so funny to be around, and we have a good time. So it's nice to have these people, but none of us are any greater than anybody else. That's my opinion.
Yep.
Because if you start to believe that stuff, you got a problem.
Well, let me ask you a question. There was a story, and I don't know where I heard it. It might have been you who told the story. Going back a few years back, many years ago, in fact, I believe you're at the Philadelphia Arena, and you're with Phil Zacco, and you're with Vince McMahon Sr., and there is an open book on a desk, and you take a look at this book. So tell me that story. They tell me that's where Kevin the Booker was born.
No, I was born really in Florida with Eddie Graham, which was an amazing experience. When I was lucky when I came to Florida, I spent the first year not in Florida. A year and a half I was in another place. But when I came to Florida, they put me with Mike Graham, and during that time, I got to meet the true geniuses of the wrestling business: Funk Sr., Terry himself, Leo Garibaldi, who nobody knows, was one of the smartest guys I ever met, Jim Barnett.
Absolutely.
And I got to be really close with Eddie. And then when him and Mike had a problem, I became like a surrogate son. So he taught me. But then when I went up to Vince, I was with the arena. Kathy, what's the name of that? Is it the Philadelphia Arena where they filmed Rocky? They used to do the TV taping?
Civic Center. Spectrum.
No, the old building where they filmed
Oh,
Rocky.
what the... Oh, yeah.
The arena.
You're talking about the Philly Arena or the Blue Horizon?
The arena.
Yeah, the Philadelphia Arena, 45th and Market, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I got there early one day, and those guys, Zacco, Monsoon, Arnold, Savoldi, and I guess maybe somebody else. Oh, the Wizard, were all out, and I was the only guy in the dressing room. They had a big table there that Vince used to watch, and I saw his book. I went over, and it was open, but I started looking through it, and I said, wow, he's got this thing booked a year out. He's got Bruno against Hansen for 3. He's got Brody and Bruno for 2. He's got Gil Paisan and Bruno for 1. Then he's got Kowalski and Bruno for 2. And he had that main event booked for a year. He had the tag team champions booked for the year. And halfway through the year, the belts would switch from, I think it was the Strabo and Billy White Wolf, and went from them to Executioners, who were Kowalski and John Studd. And I'm looking at this, and so then he had the heel that was going to work with Bruno, and that was going to work with Bruno like 6 months down the line in the third position from the top. Then he had like the secondary baby face that he was feeding. So he had about four matches booked for a year. I couldn't understand how he could do that. And I asked him about it. First of all, when I came in, he caught me. He said, what are you doing? I said, I just wanted to see how you did this. I said, I can't understand. He said, do you understand it? I said, no. He said, you want to learn? I said, yeah. He said, sit down. And boy, did I get heat. Whoa, God, those old timers were scalding. If looks could have killed, I would have been dead 12 times. But they sat me down. They said, you know, you got to, he said, proper planning prevents piss poor performance. I'll never forget it. He said, of course, this isn't going to make it through the year because I'm going to lose people. Some guys are going to get hurt. Some guys aren't going to get over like I think they are. But it keeps me that I'm not panicking. And if a guy comes along that I thought was a middle of the card guy that I had projected, and I see that he's really getting over, what I do is I don't force it. I go to him and tell him I'd like to send him someplace, or have him find a place to go for 6 months, and I want to bring him in and give him a shove. I thought, whoa, man, you're sending somebody out that's getting over. But exactly. I thought when I was a kid, I said to myself, I wouldn't do that. I'd try to, and I thought, no, you send the guy away, and he did the opposite of most people, Andrew. Mm-hmm. What he would do is, a guy going out used to be, they do the jobs, right? He would put more heat on the guys going out. The last 4 shows he was in every, like in Philly or Boston or the Garden. So when the guy went away, people say, where did he go? Where did he go? And boom, you know. And when he came back, it was a big, it helped the other cards his first few times around the town because they hadn't seen him, and he left with such an impact. So he was a contrarian to which most guys book like. And I thought,
yeah,
God, to have that foresight to see that far out. And I tried to take that into my world when I did it. And I certainly was around a lot of smart guys, and it was just, you know, people say sometimes, well, how do you do it? Well, I was around the best brains in the history of the wrestling business, so it isn't that I'm smarter than anybody, dumber than anybody. I'm just repeating what I've seen and maybe adding a little. But those guys at those days, I mean, they had like when they brought Backlund in. Backlund was on TV for 13 months because that was a thing between Vince and Eddie. When Eddie told him, he said, I don't think he's going to get over like you think he's going to get over. And he said, he's going to get over. And he got him over.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people always thought that Backlund didn't draw. Well, I don't care if they stacked the cards with Snooker and Morocco and Dusty and Superstar. He still had his name on the top of the cards, and both Vince and Eddie knew how to get a guy over, and Eddie especially knew how to get a heel over.
Kevin, can you hang out with us a little more? I know that you're limited on time tonight.
They can wait for a little bit. I'll give you another 15, then I can take the ass whipping. So
okay. Well, I'll tell you, a name that's come up on this show a lot, and Dan the Man will attest to it. Is the name Mike Graham and Eddie Graham.
Oh,
I've had as many opinions as I've had guests, and I've had some of the biggest names in the wrestling business on this show, bar none, literally bar none. And no two people can answer this question the same. You're a guy who knew him better than probably anyone, and I would be crazy and foolish to have you here and not ask you this question. Define for me the magic of Mike and Eddie Graham. What was it about Eddie that was spontaneously magic? How could he create something out of nothing? And did Mike acquire that talent, or did he have it born into him?
No, Mike acquired it. But Mike was pushed into it. I mean, Mike used, when he was 16 years old, guys would come down to at 106 North Albany, the wrestling office, and want to be wrestlers. And Eddie would line up guys, and they would say, they'd have Jerry Briscoe and Jack Briscoe and Roop and Gordon Nelson, and then Mike and Hiro Matsuda. And he'd say, who do you want to wrestle? Of course, they'd pick the 16-year-old. Mike would kill them. I mean, blooded them up. And Eddie protected the business. But Mike, as great as Mike was and as smart as he was, he loved the business, but he didn't have the passion Eddie did. Meaning, Mike had other things in his life. He was an all-around cowboy. He won big speedboat races, 4 of them in a row in Florida, which was unheard of. He was a great scuba diver, a great fisherman. Mike was good at it. A great weightlifter. He had a record, and he was clean. He had a record for bench press in the 198-pound class that lasted for 25 years, and he wasn't on roids or anything. Mike was a state wrestling champion. He was a power lifter. He was great at everything, but he had all these other interests. Eddie's interest was the wrestling business. And
and there are people who have said to me that Mike Graham was a dichotomy, that he could have exceeded his father's greatness had he applied it. What was it about him that he just didn't give a shit?
He had all the money in the world. He had all the money in the world. I mean, he was kind of born with his father bought him Christmas. His wedding present at 20 years old was a mansion on the water in Tampa. So
nice.
And Mike had other interests, but Eddie, I don't think Eddie went past his 13th birthday in school, but he became a pilot and he became a captain of a boat. He could captain, I forget how many ton ocean vehicle, plus he was a great fisherman. But other than that, even when we used to go fishing, he was talking about wrestling. And the big run before Bruno with the Grahams against Perez and Rocca, and Eddie Eddie was orchestrating those finishes and coming up with angles. And one thing about ECW, that was nothing but Florida Championship Wrestling brought up there without as much talent as Florida had.
Absolutely. Yep.
It was blood and gore, except the main event was wrestling. So
yeah. Absolutely.
But Eddie saw, and he was around smart guys. I mean, Funk Sr. and him were best friends. And they were mirror images of one another. And they both knew. I mean, when I was 20 years old and I was on their TV, the governor of Florida came on and gave me an award for my work with the youth. Well, this is 45 years ago. You might have thought wrestling was bullshit, and but you saw a kid get an award from the governor on a wrestling show, and then at the end of the shows they would say, well, the Sheriff's Boys Ranch this week got a check for $5,000. Eddie started that, the Sheriff's Boys Ranch for Wayward Kids.
Yeah.
The Sheriff's Boys Ranch and the Sheriff's Girls Ranch. And if a police officer went down in the line of duty or fireman, and they got a check from Eddie. I mean, Eddie's got a special award one time where they gave him a flag that flown in Vietnam on television. So you may watch wrestling and see some stuff that are borderline, like blood and guts. And most people say, oh, that's bullshit. I'm not going to let my kids watch that. But you kind of turn your back and say, oh, it's okay. Look what good they do to the community. Eddie started the wrestling, bought the match for the first amateur wrestling program in Tampa. But other than that, he he knew how to build a community using wrestling as a focal point. He knew how to take the stigma off of wrestling, and then he was a genius of putting the shows together. I mean, his shows. One time, Terry Funk and I were talking the other day, and Terry and I were laughing because we both saw the same thing. One time I was riding to town, and Terry said the same thing happened to him. Eddie, no matter who the booker was, me, Dusty, Louis Collette, it didn't matter. On Tuesday, Eddie was the booker. So I got there early. Terry had told me this story. I got there early, and he was looking at me and he said, "What do you got planned for the semifinal?" And I said, "Well, I know you got an idea. It's Tuesday, so what are you going to do?" He said, "This is what we're going to do." I said, "Oh, that's kind of, we've had a little bit of a pullback with some of these guys. We had a team that we're having a little bit of a problem with." And he said, "Oh, I'm not going to give them the finish." I said, "You want me to?" I've had a little bit of heat with him. I said, "You want me to? I'll do it." He said, No, they're going to give us the finish." I said, "What finish are they going to give us?" He said, "The finish I just laid out." We go in the room, and the boys come in the room, and Eddie had his little office there in Tampa at the Armory. And Eddie's sitting there, "Hey, guys, how you doing? Good job, blah, blah, blah." He said, "What do you guys got in mind?" Well, he took them right off their game plan because they got their heels dug in. They're not going to do a job. And when Eddie said, "What do you got in mind?" to those two, the guys said, "Oh, God," it threw them for a loop. By the time it was over, they gave the exact finish that Eddie had told me. And Eddie just directed them to the left, directed them to the right, directed them where they said, "Oh, I think we need a loose tonight," and blah, 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 get the heat on and keep it going. Thinking, wow, how did he do this? How did he do this? And I learned something from him. When you bring two guys into a room, one of them is going to like you, and one of them is going to dislike you at the end of this conversation. So I always would say, "Andrew, I'd like you to do a favor for Kathy tonight." So what are you going to say? I ain't going to do a favor for Kathy?
No,
I
never.
didn't ask him.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't ask him to do anything. I didn't demand to ask him for a favor. Not
Exactly.
For me, for Kathy. So I saw how diplomatic Eddie was, and because he was diplomatic and because he was straight up, guys were willing to trust Eddie, and that's what you got to have. And Eddie had that too. And Vince Sr. was the nicest guy promoter I ever worked for. He was a gem. He was a gem. And so they both had that in common. They didn't ask you for anything that was ridiculous, and I think I learned a lot from that. I mean, don't go in and try to embarrass a guy, and don't carry a grudge with somebody when you're the boss. If you got a problem, you got to air it out, and don't bring your problems to the business. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kevin, I'll tell you what, my friend, you have been generous with your time tonight. You gave us an hour. I do want to have you back. I've got to have you back. We barely touched the surface here.
Okay, I'd love to
go enjoy your dinner tonight. Thank you for giving us time. And Randy Hogan, you still with me?
I'm still with you.
All right, we
Randy,
want to say good night. I'll tell you what. Let us do this. I'll let you say good night to Kevin on behalf of us, and then we'll come back here and talk amongst us.
All righty.
Go ahead, brother.
Kevin, again, thank you from the show, but from my heart for everything that you have done for me. You talk about Eddie Graham and everybody. I think you're the genius. I mean, you can put stuff together. How many times from the Boston Battler have you reinvented yourself? And I can honestly say, and I'm sure everybody else will, I have never, ever heard anybody say a bad word about you, and that is unheard of in this business.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, someone does say a bad word. Andrew says I'm short. Andrew, I'm 6'4".
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. Oh,
so
man.
I just want to say thank you, guys, and thank you, Randy. It was so good to hear from you. And the man, look up Tom Burke and tell him you're a friend of mine. He'll send you some stuff. It's good.
There you go.
Thanks, Andrew.
I'll see you later. I'll call you tomorrow, Kev.
Okay, bye, guys. Hey, Andrew.
Take care.
Andrew.
Yes.
Andrew.
Yeah.
Tell about Southwest Fury. Where we're
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Kevin and I are now a crucial part of Southwest Fury. I'm on the roster, Southwest Wrestling, SWE Fury, down in Texas. We're going to be in Irving, Texas, on December 12th. We just got done. Kevin's working with the front office, helping them do things over there, and he's also now been announced as the premier color commentator on the show on the
terrific
TV show. And we just got back. We were there this weekend up in San Antonio. We had a bunch of shows, 4 tapes we did, and they got some of the best talent I've ever seen in my life. It reminds me of world class with a touch of Florida in it. So, and
beautiful,
hell of a compliment.
Well, Andrew, when can I get you back here, Andrew, for a one-on-one with you?
Just give me a call. You guys have my information. Dan, another guy you look up, Brian Westcott. Brian Westcott is another major league wrestling historian. So he does a lot of stuff for the Cauliflower Alley, and Brian Westcott is another guy that's really, really great, really intense. And I know you guys know General Nikita Brezhnikov.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
Manager. Yeah, he's another wrestling historian in his own right. And so, yeah, just give me a holler, let me know, and we'll put something together.
You got it. Thank you, Andrew. Take care, my friend.
Good night, guys.
Good night, Andrew. Take care.
Bye, Andrew.
All right. We got Dan the Man, Randy Hogan, and Kathy. And Kathy's going to leave us shortly, and probably we can do another 15, 20 minutes with us. She only lives right across the street. She has to do her podcast tonight too.
Oh, nice.
Oh, and let's plug your podcast.
Okay, it's called In the Room. It's on VFC Nation. We do it Tuesday night, 9 o'clock to 11, with Brady Hicks, the Maestro, Stro, myself, and a couple other co-hosts. Tonight we have Prince Nana on, and next week we have a name that you're going to remember, DC Drake.
Please. Oh, my God. DC.
I remember DC Drake.
DC before he was DC. When he was wrestling up at Paramus High School and Hazlitt High School and the Hazlitt Township skating rink with Jack Victory and the Mongols, for crying out loud. Holy shit. I'm giving away my age. I'm old. Jeez. Daniel.
Yes, sir.
So listen, we got you smartened up. Now you actually may end up being the smartest man in the room before it's all said and done.
Hey, and it's always good to learn, and that's part of it. I say that all the time on this show is I love the conversation, because you'll learn more talking to somebody. You'll learn more talking to somebody
for you though.
Yeah.
I just one burning question. Every week I show you my clear and obvious mental superiority, but you refuse to accept it.
I would say, clear
just
and obvious.
Acknowledge it.
Yeah, clear and obvious are relative terms. Definitely experience.
Randy Hogan and I buried you last week on the show. You sat there looking like you were going to cry and pout like a little baby.
Hey, you know what? All jokes aside about knowledge of wrestling, I'm the only one with a signed Randy Hogan picture in the background. So let's get that out of the way here.
Who got you that? Okay, who got it for you?
Speaking of which, my wife's at work right now wearing that Randomania shirt. So
I was going to say, did you get your T-shirt yet?
Well, I mean, it's a shirt in my closet. So if my wife lets me wear it, I get to wear it eventually.
It's a proud moment sending anything to you two guys.
Randy, you're part of the family here.
I feel like it.
Part of the family. I have a major announcement to make. The return of the movie maker, Mike, the marvelous movie maker Messier, is returning to Wrestling with the Future.
Ooh.
He will be back. As will the return of Larry Zbyszko, the return of Ron Fuller, the maiden voyage of Enzo Amore. Enzo will be here. And I got a surprise that's going to rock you out. Not going to tell you just yet. You're going to have to wait on this one there, Squire. This is
yes, sir.
Randy, I'm going to make him wait on this one.
You're a tough guy.
Hey, he always. You see what I have to deal with here, Randy. He always gives me flack for not knowing everything, but then he doesn't tell me anything either. So
the thing is, to get you somehow, I had to get you. I had to get you on even ground. So I sent you that T-shirt, so you are cloaked in the blood of Randomania. Now you have some protection.
I like it.
This is what I deal with every week. But here's the thing. Let's be honest about it, okay? Because Dan's young. He's 37. I've got shoes older than him, okay? I'm like 62 years old, okay? I'm the old fart here,
No, you're not.
Excuse me, not quite, Angelo.
61.
I'm 62.
So what? You're a year older.
Okay, I'm still the older. I'm the older fart. But
no, as long as I'm here.
One of the things that we pride ourselves on this show, and I think we do it better than anybody, is we talk very little wrestling with some of the biggest wrestling stars, because they all have a story, but they all have humanity. They're all people. Right. And that's what we do that nobody else does quite like we do. And I'm very proud of that. I'm proud to be able to hook Randy Hogan up after 35 years, so he could say thank you to Kevin. That's a big deal.
Oh yeah,
for us.
And I mean, how many times have we gotten feedback from people we've interviewed saying it's the most fun they've had in years doing interviews? God, yeah. Because we're asking them questions that nobody else does.
Well, speaking of doing something that nobody else does, Thursday night, I got a humdinger for you, Daniel. We've got Nick Christopher joining us, the famed mafia historian and author, the author of the legends, the legendaries books or the legacies books. What are they called? The legends?
I'm sorry. You talking about the book series?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The legacies.
Yeah. The excuse me. I'm sorry.
Nick Christopher's book series.
Geez, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought you were asking about the stuff that he wrote.
Yeah, no, he's got the books. They're called the legacies or the legendaries, or what is it?
No, the Destiny series.
That's it. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I completely misunderstood where you were going with that question. Yeah,
that's okay. I forgot the name of the fucking book. It's been a long day. It's been a long day. Oh, brother. Well, listen. We're going to get out of here. We're going to make it a short show tonight. We had a lot of fun. Crammed a lot of fun into an hour tonight.
Yes, sir.
So, but we have Nick Christopher joining us. Another guy that spent some time with John A. Light. We're talking a little bit about him, life in the mob. But we're going to talk about the Greek mob and the often forgotten about Irish mafia.
Yes.
There you go.
Hey.
You want to come over for that one?
We got to stick together here, yeah.
There you go. But now Kevin probably had some opinions on that one. I would love to have his thoughts on that. He grew up right in the heart of that stuff. But anyway, you guys, Dan, let's give everybody our info. Plug us away.
Okay, obviously, Wrestling with the Future podcast. We can be found wherever podcasts can be listened to. We're on well pushing our way to 200 different platforms. We're on Facebook, Wrestling with the Future podcast. We're on Instagram, Wrestling with the Future podcast. We're on Twitter at Wrestling Future, no G, Wrestling Future. And we can be found pretty much anywhere you find Wrestling with the Future or Wrestling Conversation. You'll find Wrestling with the Future podcast.
And we are also on Skynet Television in Canada.
Yes.
The BBC4 in England. We are on 7 commercial radio stations around the country and 144 platforms worldwide. We are sponsored by, Daniel, tell them who we're sponsored by.
Well, we are sponsored by our friends at Manscaped.com. Manscaped.com is the leading supplier of man grooming products. Their current package is the Lawnmower 3.0. It includes the refreshing spray, the deodorizer, a series of wipes. It all comes in a leather handbag, currently with free shipping. You go to Manscaped.com and use promo code WrestlingFuture for 20% off. And Manscaped.com, they have all the best products out there. I can vouch for that. And they've been a friend of the show for a long time now.
About a year.
Mm-hmm.
About a year. Just short of a year. And they have re-upped with us. And we welcome our new sponsor next week, Blue Chew. So we've got the, pardon me, Kathy, but we've got the hard-on and shaving the balls market covered. So there you go.
Angela, I just want to say thanks for letting me come over to talk to Kevin.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Quite welcome. And Kevin wasn't lying. I want to tell everybody, just straight shoot, okay? I've known Kathy for probably 37 years now, at least. And she is literally one of the boys. She's been a part of just about every federation that's come through this area. They know her. She knows them. Cooked a lot of meals, washed a lot of clothes, and drove a lot of people to the airport.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're
out. And she is an invaluable service to the wrestling industry.
And Angela will tell you that we know that's a fact for just the sheer number of times your name has come up in stories on this show.
It has a lot. Your name's come up on the show a lot. You should watch you should watch every episode and listen for your shout out. Well, on that note, Randy, thank you for calling in tonight, brother. Dan the Man, thanks for another interesting conversation. We will have the pleasure of your company Thursday night. In the meantime, everybody, take care, happy wrestling, and we'll see you next time.